my eye, I saw a pretty little thing approaching me. She said, I never seen a man.
Coming to you live from the Evil Monkey Arcade, it is Dustin Recommends. Well, not really live, more taped, but you get the idea. So, I know it's been a while for these Dustin Recommends little videos, and I apologize for that, but there hasn't really been anything that's perked my interest or anything that I consider obscure enough, or really anything that no one really doesn't know about that hasn't been a mainstream release here lately. Now, talking on Facebook to some of you, a lot of y'all have been requesting stuff from the 80s, mainly some really cheesy movies. I've decided I'm going to make that a completely different thing. Maybe something along the lines of Attack of the 80s Cheese, something like that, just dealing with those old retro movies and the guilty pleasures from the 80s and 90s that we grew up with, and we know they're bad, but we love them anyway. So probably starting tomorrow, I'll be uploading maybe a quick little 2-3 minute clip about this, you know, just a movie, just to remind you about it. I'd even call it Dustin Remembers. That's a good idea right there. But anyway, on this episode of Dustin Recommends, I'm going to talk about a little movie that I discovered called Elfie Hopkins, Cannibal Hunter. I'm editing again. You like that? Yeah. So anyway, the basic plot of this movie is you got this 20-something-year-old slacker who lives in a small hunting village in England, which it's from what I've read, it's actually a pretty common thing. They have little villages that are pretty much dedicated to hunting, and you know, they're run by a pretty small little, you know, community of maybe 20, 40 people, but they get an influx during hunting seasons where they come and they, you know, or act as guides and such to these city folk who go out and hunt. But anyway, Elfie lives in this little village with her best friend, and who's a guy, but she's basically just a slacker, stoner, not really any direction in life. She's kind of a new age hippie. Loves animals, doesn't really like the idea of living in a hunting village, and she lives with her dad and her stepmom. Now, Elfie likes to consider herself a little private detective. She's styling herself after the detectives from like the Maltese Falcon and stuff like that. She's got a serious like of those old detective movies. So, to basically make, because she's not really ready to leave, she entertains herself by having these little cases that her and her best friend kind of do. You know, basically making everybody's life miserable and just throwing up just wild accusations here and there. Well, things get interesting when a new family moves into the hunting village to get away from everything. And so this new family moves in right next door to Elfie, and they have a little party to introduce themselves. Well, everybody goes over there, and I say everybody, seems to not be very many people in this little village, but they go over there, and the family introduces themselves and claims that they are they're travel agents, and they specialize in, you know, exotic locations and wild animal hunts. So perfect fit, right? Well, later on down the line, people start going missing, and well, the police don't think they're going missing because they've scheduled these exotic 3-month-long hunting trips with this travel agency. Suspicious yet. So anyway, Elfie gets in her mind that something's not right and starts investigating them with her friend. Well, turns out she's right. They're not going on these little camping trips. They're being eaten by these people. And these people are very creepy after a little bit once you get to know them. The oldest son has a definite little weird thing with weapons and crossbows and guns and, you know, typical. But the daughter is the one that creeps me out the most. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but she's creepy. Like, creepy. So all hell breaks loose, and Elfie has to basically save the town. Or does she? again, I'm not going to spoil it because I recommend that you watch this movie. The soundtrack, or the score rather, is really, really eclectic in this flick. And there is some music that plays during some of the scenes that really fit the scene, but you don't think they would. Very odd. Also, the portrayal of these the characters by their respective actors are very well done. I've been looking, and this movie got horrible reviews, and I honestly I don't see why. It tells a very interesting story. The characters are pretty well fleshed out, you know, for what they can do with a non-franchise 90-minute flick. It's pretty good, actually. Cinematography's done well. The jokes are, occasionally the jokes can be hit or miss. It starts off to be kind of a lighthearted romp and then just steadily goes downhill into this dark, creepy place. But, you know, it's well worth it, and I recommend the movie. It's very good. Track it down if you can. It's on video on demand. You can get a copy of the DVD on Amazon. But don't expect to go to your local, you know, Walmart and be able to find this flick. It came out in 2012 in Britain and was released, I think, around May. Here, limited DVD releases here and there. You'll probably find it at specialty DVD stores and stuff like that. Not going to really find it in Walmart. But if you can track down a copy, or if you just rent it off of video on demand, Vudu, something like that, I highly recommend it. It's very good, very entertaining, creepy flick around in the same vein. Also, trivia. No one has been able to answer my last little trivia question, so gonna give you a little hint for you that are watching this. The original clue was this famous actor starred in this film that basically demonized tabletop role-playing games. This was an early 80s movie. The film it demonized should be the game it demonized should be pretty blatant here. It was during the whole Dungeons and Dragons craze where people were like, it's evil, it's the devil, it's teaching our kids to be Satanists. So there's your other little hints. I'm not going to say any more. 15 points, first person that answers. But back to that. Dustin recommends Elfie Hopkins, Cannibal Hunter. Check it out. It's a good flick. Alright, and signing out from the Evil Monkey Arcade, it's me, and I will see y'all tomorrow with a slice of 80s cheese. Later.
Could you use a little company? If you pay the right price, your evening will be nice, and you can go and send me on my way. I said, you're such a sweet young thing, why you do this to yourself? She looked at me, and this is what she said: oh, there ain't no rest for the